Now, our next guest is a superstar DJ who's travelled the world many times over. He's widely acclaimed as a musical tastemaker, has worked with numerous musical legends. He's also notched up an incredible 5 Mercury nominations through his own music label, and he also finds time to host his own radio show on BBC Radio 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Gilles Peterson. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us.
It's nice to be here.
That was quite an intro, wasn't it?
Big intro.
Well, you've been a busy man, as we've noticed some of the things that you've been up to, but tell us why you're in Manchester.
Well, I'm in Manchester because I'm actually here to see you. And I wanted to see this exhibition next door, which is the Homegrown exhibition at the Urbis about hip-hop culture, which is brilliant. And later on I'm going to be playing at the Wardrobe in Leeds. And next Thursday I'm here in Manchester to do a big Cuban event called Havana Cultura.
OK. Now, this is part of an ongoing tour, isn't it? Coincides with an album that you've got coming out. Tell us a little bit about it, then. What sort of music can we expect? I mean, there'll be lots of people who are familiar with the sort of music that you make and you play. But for people that don't, how would you describe it in a nutshell? Well,
I mean, sometimes I kind of focus on electronic music, a lot of stuff coming out of the UK, out of dance music, but I've also spent quite a few years travelling the world and going to places like Brazil or Africa to kind of just discover some new music and to introduce it to a whole new generation. And I was really fortunate to get the chance to go to Cuba last year and make an album, sort of 50 years after the revolution, post Buena Vista Social Club, which was a big success, but really focused on old Cuban music. And I wanted to really sort of look at the new generation of rappers, musicians, rumba artists coming out. So we made an album in Havana. It was amazing.
Sounds great fun. Now, you're here next Thursday, as you said, the 19th of November. You're going to be playing in town. Tell us about what's happening on that particular night, because I know it's not just yourself, is it? There's other acts involved
well,
as well.
we made this album in June. All Cuban artists. I couldn't bring them all over here, so we brought a few of them over here. We brought an amazing singer called Danae, who's like a Cuban Erykah Badu kind of vibe. We've got some rappers called Alguere, and they've basically teamed up with a band that we've made up out of London called the Havana Cultura All-Stars. And it's just going to be a live thing, basically playing the album and introducing these new Cuban artists.
And happening, coincidentally, at the Havana Club as well. And we've got some tickets to give away, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But I just wanted to quiz you a bit, because you've been DJing since you were 15. We were talking about it a little bit earlier on. I've always fancied myself as a DJ, but never gotten round to it. And there's lots of young kids I know that would quite like to aspire to be these superstar DJs. Do you think that's still possible these days, with so many people trying to do it? And what advice would you give them?
Well, I think the most important thing, if you're sort of wanting to get into that game, really, is to make your own music. I think back when I started, there was DJs like Colin Curtis and Richard Serling around in the northern part of England that really inspired me. But we were quite fortunate because we were the first sort of generation, and there are so many DJs now. The way to really create your sound is to make your own music, which is a lot easier to do than it was then. So I reckon, get a computer, get into your music, make your sound, and make your sound, you know, different to everybody else's.
Something a bit unique.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. Best of luck with everything. I hope the album goes really well.
Thank
and
you.
We'll see you on Thursday at Club Havana. If you want to get your hands on a pair of tickets, we've got 10 to give away. You just need to email us today at channelm.co.uk. I just have to draw your attention to a mistake I made a little bit earlier on. It doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen very often, but I've held my hands up. I was just chatting to Gilles Peterson there. He's actually on at the Mint Lounge next Thursday, not Club Havana, as I very geekily told you, so sorry about that.